Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 p.m. here in Cairo. This is Shuruk Bakir, and I'll accompany you through the latest news and development on the national and international arena, starting off with the headlines, followed with the details. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi meets top media figures on developing Egyptian media. Foreign Minister Abdel Ati inaugurates annual conference of heads of Egypt's diplomatic missions abroad. And European leaders urge more pressure on Russia ahead of Trump-Putin summit. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi convened today with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Chairman of the Supreme Council for Media Regulation, Khalid Abdelaziz, Chairman of the National Press Authority, Abd al-Sadiq al-Shurbagi, as well as Chairman of the National Media Authority, Ahmed al-Mislimani. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Mohammed al-Shinnawi said that President al-Sisi extended his greetings and appreciation to all those working in the media sector, praising the vital role played by the Egyptian in media in building national characters, shaping public awareness, and informing citizens about the developments on both the domestic and international fronts. Sisi asserted that the state's steadfast commitment to upholding freedom of expression and embracing all national visions within the Egyptian media system and promoting pluralism and intellectual openness. President Sisi gave directions to implement a comprehensive roadmap for the developments of the Egyptian media. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli chaired a follow-up meeting with a number of officials to review preparations for the Grand Egyptian Museum inaugural ceremony due to take place on the 1st of November. Dr. Mustafa Madbouli expressed keenness on the continued following up of the inauguration ceremony after the announcement of its new date to guarantee appropriate coordination among the state's concerned bodies to bring the prestigious event into a success to reflect the distinguished value of the museum and its national significance. General Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of Defense General Abdelmajid Sakr stressed on the necessity of maintaining the highest levels of efficiency, combat readiness, raising the skill and physical level through continuous training, and maintaining high morale of soldiers. This came during Minister of Defense's meeting with a number of special forces, fighters from the parachuters and commanders forces, with the presence of Armed Forces Chief of Staff General Ahmed Khalifa. Minister of Foreign Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs Badr Abdel Ati today highlighted the pivotal role that his ministry plays in defending Egyptians' interests abroad. The minister made these remarks at the inaugural session of the first annual conference of Egypt's diplomatic missions abroad with the participation of concerned ministry officials. The top diplomat reviewed the Egyptian stance regarding different regional and international issues, noting that Egypt adopts a balanced approach which helps enhancing its international status and realizing its interest amid at the extremely complex regional and international candidates. Abdel Ati added that the conference aims at showcasing priorities of Egypt's foreign policy, following up the path of work at different embassies and consulates, and discussing an upgrade to consular services in support of the Egyptian communities. An Arab League extraordinary session kicked off today at the level of permanent representatives, chaired by Jordan, discusses the ways to confront the occupation's crime in the Gaza Strip. The session was called by Palestine after the Israelis announced they intended to reoccupy the enclave, which would result in the forced deportation of Palestinians. The meeting also discusses the humanitarian catastrophe in the enclave and the bloodbath and starvation unleashed unleashed by the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. Speakers condemned the genocide against the Palestinian people and expanding occupation of Palestinian lands, the destruction of infrastructure, and the terrorism of settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank. Breaks in by settlers in Al-Aqsa Mosque compound also tops the agenda of the talks. This comes at a time when demonstration and demonstration are escalating in many countries around the world in rejection of Netanyahu's extremist policies. The 8th aid convoy to Gaza entered the Rafah border crossing. The convoy entered the enclave to provide food and emergency aid, including baby formula and medical supplies. Israeli occupation troops killed 17 Palestinians on Sunday, 11 of them at 8 distribution sites. On Saturday, 47 Palestinians were killed by Israeli occupation fire in various parts of Gaza. This came as the Gaza Health Ministry announced that 61,639 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed since the start of the Israeli aggression on Gaza in 2030. Meanwhile, Gaza hospitals announced the death of 5 people, including 2 children, due to starvation and malnutrition. The deaths brings the total death toll from malnutrition and starvation to 217, including 100 children. The United Nations Security Council will hold an urgent meeting to discuss the situation in the Middle East after Israel's Security Cabinet approved a plan to take control of Gaza City. Ambassador Riyad Mansour, permanent observer of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, said a number of countries requested a meeting of the UN Security Council on Israelis' plans. Police in London braced for another day of demonstrations today as the war in Gaza continues to inflame tensions across the United Kingdom. Demonstrators demanding the immediate release of all remaining hostages in Gaza plan to march through central London to the Prime Minister's residence. The march comes a day after police arrested 474 people at a protest in support of Palestine. Moving to Syria, a Syrian government official said that authorities would not participate in planned talks in Paris on integrating the Kurdish semi-autonomous administration into the Syrian state and demanded future negotiations be held in Damascus. Details in the following report.
A Syrian government official said that authorities would not participate in planned talks in Paris on integrating the Kurdish semi-autonomous administration into the Syrian state and demanded future negotiations be held in Damascus. The move came a day after the Kurdish administration, which controls swathes of the north and northeast, held a conference involving several Syrian minority communities, the first such meeting ever since the overthrow of longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad in December. Participants included the head of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces SDF, Mazloum Abdi, who on March 10 signed a deal with President Ahmed al-Shara to integrate the Kurds' civil and military institutions into the state. The conference's final statement called for a democratic constitution that establishes a decentralized state, guaranteeing the participation of all components of Syrian society. Damascus has previously rejected calls for decentralization. Late last month, Syria, France, and the United States said they agreed to convene talks in Paris as soon as possible on implementing the March 10 agreement.
Moving to the European leaders urged more pressure on Russia after the announcement of Trump-Putin summit to end the war in Ukraine, raised concern that an agreement would require Kiev to cede swathes of territory. European leaders issued a joint statement saying that only an approach that combines active diplomacy, support to Ukraine, and pressure on the Russian Federation to end their illegal war can succeed. They welcomed Trump's efforts, saying they were ready to help diplomatically by maintaining support to Ukraine. Russia said one person was killed and several apartments and industrial facilities were damaged in Ukrainian drone attack on the South Russian region of Saratov. The Defense Ministry said that Russian air defense units destroyed 121 Ukrainian drones overnight, including 8 over the Saratov region. And moving to another topic, Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development, Ministers of Industry and Transportation, Kamil El-Wazir, inspected 6 factories in 10th of Ramadan Industrial Zone, Sharqiya Governorate. Joined by senior officials, El-Wazir inspected steel, metal and textile plants. The minister noted that the government's commitment to protecting national industry from dumping practices under World Trade Organization laws, which contributes to rationalizing the import bill and increasing reliance on local products. He also sent a message of the Egyptian workers, stressing that the real industry rely on trained laborers to elevate the national economy, retiring that workers are essential in any industry, regardless modern technology. The Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, CAPMAS, stated that Egypt's annual urban consumer price inflation dropped to 13.9% in July from 14.9% in June, according to an official statement released on Sunday. CAPMAS said that the urban food and beverage prices were down 3% overall compared to June 2025, but rose by 3.4% against July 2024. And urban inflation on a monthly basis also inched down in July by 0.5% compared to June, reducing prices of various products in local markets and reflecting better economic performance, so that the agency noted that the meat and poultry prices were down by 4.9%, fruits by 11% and vegetables by 7%, while the prices of bread and cereals were up by 0.4% and seafood by 0.2%. The preparatory meetings of the Egyptian-Jordanian Joint Committee in its 33rd round kickoff in the Jordanian capital, Amman. The committee held on its expert levels, chaired by Minister of Planning and International Cooperation, Rania Al-Mashat, will discuss a wide range of topics of mutual concern in light of regional developments. The Joint Committee meeting reflects both countries' keen interest in exploring new cooperation horizons in the trade, economic, and investment fields. Egypt's stock market indices collectively went up at end of trading, boosted by purchases by local and foreign investments, funds, and corporations against sell-offs by Arab corporation. The benchmark EGX 30 index jumped 0.84%. The EGX 70 index for small and medium businesses also gained 0.56%. The broader EGX 100 index added 0.75%. Moving to the sports, Egypt beat Japan 36-28 at Cairo Stadium Hall, won on Saturday night in a Group 7 game in the 11th IHF Men's Youth U19 Handball World Championship that takes place in Egypt from the 6th to the 17th of August, featuring 32 teams at 4 venues across Cairo and the new administrative capital. By this win, Egypt qualified for the main round of the World Championship, where they will face the teams that qualify from Group 8. The first week of the Egyptian Premier League season resumed on Sunday with 3 matches. Al-Bank Al-Ahli play with Al-Ghazal Mahalla. MB clashes with Farco. Al-Guna meet Al-Kharaba. Ismailia. On Saturday night at the title holders, Al Ahly held to a 2-2 draw with their hosts Modern Sport in a breathtaking game. In another game, Ismailia were held to goals draw with Petrojet. Earlier, El Muqawilun Al-Arab suffered a 2-0 defeat by their guests Zed. In another game yesterday, Sumuha were held to a 1-1 draw with their guest Tala'a Gish to share a point for each. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we came to the end of this edition of the news. That was me, Shuru Bakir. Thank you for watching.